reign shall know no end, and round his pierced feet the roar of paradise extend their fragrant ever-seas. Please be seated. The first announcement that I want to lift up is there was a mistake in the newsletter and Love Feast, the portion of it that we have been celebrating during COVID has been not the full Love Feast, but we've had a demonstration of foot washing and we've shared bread and cup. And we're doing it next Sunday as a part of the worship service, not after the worship service, but as a part of the worship service. Elder Body meets again this coming Tuesday. Easter egg hunt next Saturday morning at what time? Who knows the time of that? 9 o'clock. Okay. Was that Barb who said that? Yeah. Barb wanted me to remind you that she would like to take the entire congregation to Shady Maple. And so you need to see her after the service this morning to get your reservation in, okay? Do I have that right, Barb? Okay. Gotcha. Don't mess with the pastor, okay? I warned her that I would sometime get back to her. And then the senior luncheon is April the 13th. And we have one more announcement that Jen Mumbert wants to share regarding VBS.
All right, good morning, everyone. Back here. It is that time of year to start getting excited about the upcoming VBS. We are having Vacation Bible School the week of July 18th through the 22nd. Our theme this year is concrete and cranes, so a lot of construction and fun. We're building on the love of Jesus. So if that is something that you are excited about doing, please, please, please come see either Angie Markey or myself, and we'll get you plugged in to help out and grow the kids in their love for Jesus. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Those are all the announcements that I have this morning, and if you have others that you want me to share in future Sundays, just pass those on to me as someone did this morning. Well, this is a Sunday when we celebrate our volunteers, and I love that whole idea. We exist as a congregation. We exist and do good things in this community because of you. A lot of times pastors get the credit, but listen, if it wasn't for you, this church wouldn't be here. And Tom was telling me that when we started this tradition of celebrating our volunteerism, we tried to use the phrase ministry partners, and that just never quite caught on. But I absolutely love that phrase, because that's what we are. We are partners in mission. I can't remember where the Apostle Paul said that in one of his epistles, but he referred to people in the church as partners in mission with him. And that's what we are. We are in this wonderful partnership in mission with Jesus Christ himself. And Ken is going to come and share a poem with us. Ken Gordon, our moderator, our interim moderator, is going to come and share a poem in celebration of this Ministry Partner Sunday.
Right there. Good morning, everybody. This was a poem that actually Barb found, and it's really good. It's entitled Ode to Church Volunteers. And one of the things that we have talked about is that there are sometimes volunteers are recognized for what they do. There are many other times that people volunteer to do things that there's no recognition given. And I think it's important, I think everybody sitting here today, and there are those who are not here today, but everyone sitting here today has done something in a volunteer mode. And just as Bob said, if it wasn't for the people who volunteer, not only for the big things, but for those smaller things, we just wouldn't be here. So thank you all so much for everything that you do. But here's the poem, Ode to Church Volunteers. There are many among you who volunteer here. You volunteer tirelessly and usually with cheer. Even though we ask you at the last minute, if it needs to be done, we can count on you to be in it. You help teach our children or dry the dishes. You plant or uproot stuff based on our wishes. Some flip pancakes, some fetch donuts. How coffee gets made is quite beyond us. You decorate the church and then take it down. You host the fun things we do around town. You greet and usher and serve communion. Every Sunday is like a volunteer reunion. Some of you sing and hit the right notes. Others play music great composers wrote. You shuffle papers for mailings and fold the bulletins. You lead classes and meetings, no matter what room they're in. Every great volunteer is in great demand. Without you, these little jobs can get out of hand. We know you have lives, and it's hard to commit. But the difference you make makes all of it worth it. The impact of your kindness brings many folks cheer. Codorus volunteers, we are in awe of you this year. Thank you, and thank you again. Well done, faithful servants. Well done, our friends. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Hold on a second. One of the things that I wanted to do this morning is say how proud I was of you last Sunday when Vicki came to me during the soup and salad and said I was too curious to wait on counting the offering that we took for Ukraine, and so I went and did it. And I said, well, I was really curious too, but I wasn't bold enough to ask you if you would go ahead and count the offering. And I was amazed by it and just so proud of you that if you weren't at Soup and Salad, you may not know that we contributed $5,032 to give aid to those in Ukraine. And thank you so much for that. I don't know if you were here early enough to see one of the slides during the announcements slides that cycle through before the service begins was a picture of the check that we've sent off and also the envelopes that many of you use to make your contributions. So thank you for that. And I have one more quickie to share, and that is years ago, I was invited to preach at a church in Falfurrias, Texas. Falfurrias is about 60 miles north of the southernmost part of Texas. And we used to have a BVS unit there, and because of the BVS unit and the good work we were doing there, a fairly sizable church was established. There was a sanctuary nearly as large as this sanctuary. But then after the work of the BVS unit was done, the BVSers went home, and the church dwindled and dwindled and dwindled. And when I went to preach there, only 4 people showed up for church that Sunday. And it was in August in deep South Texas. And they had air conditioned the sanctuary just for me and these 4 other people. And I said, isn't there any other place here that we can have air conditioned? And they said, well, the kitchen is always air conditioned. I said, let's have church in the kitchen this morning. So they turned off the air conditioning. We went into the kitchen. The service lasted 2.5 hours because people were just sharing their joys and everything. And the point of all of this story is one of the songs that they sang was this song that we're going to try to do right now. If your Spanish is fluent, you're welcome to try this in Spanish, but there are 2 English verses here. And it is just such a sweet song. And when I was going through the hymnal this past week, picking hymns for this Sunday, I just paged through and I found this hymn and I thought, oh, we have to do this. I have to teach this hymn to our people because it is such a sweet hymn. And so we're going to try it. Lord, you have come to the lake shore, looking neither for wealthy nor wise ones. You only ask me to follow humbly. Oh Lord, with your eyes you have searched me, kindly smiling, have spoken my name. Now my boat's left on the shoreline behind me. By my side, I will seek others' seas. You know so well my possessions. My boat carries no gold and no weapons, but nets and fishes, my daily labor. Oh Lord, with your eyes you have searched me, kindly smiling, have spoken my name. Now my boat's left on the shoreline behind me. By your side, I will seek others' seas. We now have a Lenten video to watch together.
Oh, I remember when I was a little girl, Mama used to say she could always tell when it was about to rain, 'cause her elbow would get creaky. But in my smart mouth, I'd say to her, Mama, forget that old elbow. I just listen for the thunder. Well, Mama's elbow didn't always get it right. But see, thunder don't lie. Oh, that night of the Passover. Ooh, I love talking about the Passover. I love remembering how God delivered us, you know? Well, see, that night, everybody just wanted to see him. I mean, everybody had heard about Jesus. You know, I remember some Greeks showed up, and they pleaded with Philip to just let them see her. I guess that was all of us in some sense. We all just wanted to be in the same room with him. I mean, it's like that feeling you get when you know something is about to happen. Like Mama's elbow, you know? You can't quite explain it, you just know. Well, we all just wanted to be there when it happened. So then, Jesus started talking about things that were to come. He said, my soul is troubled. And what should I say? Father, save me from this hour? No. It was for this very reason that I have come to this hour. Father, glorify your name. Woo! Yeah. And then that old thunder came booming down right on time. Yes, it did. And now, this wasn't some noise just off in the distance. Oh, no. This here was a thunderclap sent straight from heaven. Yes, sir. And you know what? It wasn't just thunder. It was the voice of God. He said, I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again. Woo! My Lord. You know, I remember somebody saying, is it gonna rain? I looked at him and said, child, no. That ain't thunder. No. That was God. That was a triumphant noise. Honey, that was God's glory setting fire to the air in anticipation for what is to come. And baby, you didn't need no creaky elbow to know that. Oh.
Let's pray. Lord, many of us, probably most of us, can identify with that time that Jesus said, now is my soul troubled. We've had those times when we've gotten bad news about health concerns, when we've had a friend, a loved one, a child who got a scary diagnosis, when we've had to let go of those we deeply love who have come to the end of their earthly journey, when we've got a pink slip that we were no longer employed. There are a myriad of those things that have deeply troubled us, but in all of those times, you have been with us. And as we've learned to look to you in those times, you've taken us by the hand and you've led us through. And some of those events we can look back on today with thanksgiving because of what we learned, how we learned to trust in you, how we learned that in our weakness we can find strength in you. And so may this Lenten season be a season of new discoveries. We'll look at these things that trouble us in a new way and see how you can take those moments, those experiences, and redeem them, just as you used Jesus to redeem us. Lord, we ask this all in Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen. We invite the children to come forward for the children's story as we sing their theme song. And at the very end of the song, we shout what? For you. Right. I want to hear it this morning, okay? Ready? My God is so good, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so good, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. He made the trees, he made the seas, he made the elephants too. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so great, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so great, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. The mountains are his, the rivers are his, the skies are his handiwork too. My God is so great, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. There's nothing my God cannot do. There's nothing my God cannot do for you. Right, that's good. Well, it's my turn to do the children's story this morning. Don't be alarmed. If you pay attention this morning, you have nothing to fear. This is a sword. And it's not just a sword, it is called the Sword of King Solomon. Back during the Crusades, those were wars that were fought about over 1,000 years ago, or around 1,000 years ago. The knights wanted to have a special sword, and they had crafted what was known as the Sword of Solomon, and this is an exact copy of one of those swords that survived in history those 1,000 years, and it's quite a sword. But I don't want to talk about swords today. I want to talk about kings today. Can anybody tell me what a king is? What does a king do? Yes. A king tells the knights what to do. But what about the days? Do you tell the knights and the days? No. Okay, just making a bad joke, right? But you got it, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the knights tell, the king tells the knights what to do, and they don't just tell the knights what to do, they tell everybody what to do. Anybody who lives within the realm, within the country of the king, people better do what the king says, or else. Well, you just never know what a king might do. And some of those kings were really, really good kings. And they loved the people, and they wanted to help the people. But some of the kings were just really nasty. And they loved to do things that actually hurt people. Could you imagine actually having fun hurting somebody? There's this one story in the Bible about a king who had a huge flock of sheep. And a friend came over for dinner, and he didn't want to butcher one of his sheep for this friend. And so he went to a man who had only one sheep. And because he was the king, he took that man's one sheep and butchered it to serve dinner to a friend. Was that right? No. That was really a wicked thing to do. And that king's name was King David. And it was a story that a friend of his made up just to tell David that he had done something that was really, really unkind. And David listened to the story, and he repented of that wicked thing that he had done. And he was a much better king because he had learned how to do the right thing rather than the wrong thing. Do you know there is someone in the Bible who is referred to as the King of Kings? Do you know who that is?
Jesus.
Yeah. Jesus is referred to as the King of Kings. There are kings, and then there is the King of Kings. What do you think that means?
It's a book of the book of the Bible.
Yeah, well, actually, in the Old Testament, there are two books, the First Kings and Second Kings. But Jesus, the King of Kings, he was the top king of all of the kings who have ever lived in history. Jesus was at the very, very top. And Jesus, we don't have a king in America, do we? No. But as Christians, we have a king. And who is our king?
God.
Yes. And Jesus, who is the King of Kings. And so in the sermon this morning and in your lesson this morning, you're going to talk more about kings. And just remember that Jesus is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Now, is he a bad king or a good king?
Good king.
He's a good king because he was willing to lay down his life for all of his friends. And that's why he was proclaimed the King of Kings. Let's pray together. God, we thank you for this day, and we thank you that Jesus came as a babe in the manger and lived a very humble life, but he became the King of Kings because he laid down his life for us. May we serve him as our King. Help us to do what our King asks us to do. Lord, this is our prayer. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you. You're all dismissed. And we're going to sing together our next hymn. Unto Jesus be all glory, honor, and praise, majesty, kingdom, authority, flow from his throne. Unto his own his anthem praise. Glorify the name of Jesus. Magnify, glorify Jesus the King. Majesty, worship his majesty. Thanks, Andy. Love that hymn. Well, we're continuing as we read the Bible through in 2022. In order to get this message, you kind of have to know what happened in the book of Judges. And there was a kind of cycle, and a little bit later, I'll show you a symbol of that cycle where God raised up these leaders, and they were called judges. They weren't really judges like we understand today. And there were 12 judges mentioned in the book of Judges. And so long as one of these judges was leading the people of Israel, they were living at peace and they were enjoying themselves. But then when that particular judge, and there were people like Samson or Gideon or Ruth, who was a female judge of that day, female leader. And when those judges, when those leaders died, then the people fell into sin again and sometimes lived for years in sin until God raised up the next anointed leader. And the 13th judge is not even mentioned in the book of Judges. His name is Samuel, and there are actually 2 books in the Old Testament that bear the name, 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel. So that's kind of the backstory to our scripture lesson today, taken from chapter 8 in the first book of Samuel. When Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as Israel's leaders. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of the second was Abijah. And they served at Beersheba, but his sons did not follow his ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain and accepted bribes and perverted justice. So all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah, and they said to him, "You are old, and your sons do not follow your ways. Now appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have." But when they said, "Give us a king to lead us," this displeased Samuel. And so he prayed to the Lord, and the Lord said to him, "Listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king. And as they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving other gods, so they are doing the same to you. Now listen to them, but warn them solemnly and let them know what the king who will reign over them will claim as his rights." Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people who were asking him for a king. He said, "This is what the king who will reign over you will claim as his rights. He will take your sons and make them serve with his chariots and horses, and they will run in front of his chariots. So he will assign some he will assign to be commanders of thousands and commanders of 50s, and others to plow his ground and reap his harvest, and still others to make weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves and give them to his attendants. He will take a tenth of your grain and your vintage and give it to the officials and attendants. Your male and female servants and the best of your cattle and donkeys he will take for his own. He will take a tenth of your flocks, and you yourselves will become his slaves. When that day comes, you will cry out for relief from the king you have chosen. But the Lord will not answer you in that day. But the people refused to listen to Samuel. No, they said, we want a king over us. Then we will be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us and to go out before us and fight our battles. When Samuel heard all that the people told him, he repeated it before the Lord. The Lord answered, listen to them and give them a king. They didn't want God to be their king. They wanted to be like all the rest of the world. And I think that's something we continue to struggle with today. We try to be the church the way the world thinks the church needs to be, rather than being the church the way God wants the church to be. Jesus promised that the gates of hell would not prevail against his church if we would name him as the head of the church and serve him as the head of the church. But no, we want a king as the world chooses leaders. And that, I believe, is one of the reasons the church is so challenged today in North America. We've taken our eyes off of Jesus, and we're looking to the world and allowing the world to define our values as Christians. Well, there was this cycle that we saw in the book of Judges, and you see it there before you. There was a season when the people served the Lord faithfully, and then they would fall into sin, and they would become enslaved. Last week when we looked at the story of Gideon, they were enslaved by the Midianites, who sent a vast army of 120,000 against them. And then they would cry out to the Lord, and God would give them a leader in the book of Judges known as a judge. And then Israel was delivered from their bondage to serve the Lord again. And after that leader died, they'd fall back into a pattern of sin again, and they would be enslaved again, and the cycle would repeat itself again and again. In the book of Judges, that cycle repeated itself 12 times. And now we get Samuel, who was such a courageous leader that there are 2 books of the Bible named after him. But when he became old and weary, they wanted to toss him aside and demanded that they receive a king. And they got their wish. Samuel anointed King Saul, the first of 43 kings who served Israel for the next 400 years. And of those 43 kings, 37 of them were absolutely vile and wicked. Some of them sacrificed their children. many of them worshiped Baal and were just involved in all sorts of the most sordid kind of activities. And the last of those 43 kings was King Zedekiah. And during Zedekiah's reign, the Babylonians came in, they conquered Israel, they destroyed the temple, they sacked Jerusalem, and they carried the best of Israel's people away as captives to Babylonia. And for the next 70 years, they lived as captives in a foreign land until once again they cried out to God for salvation. And so there's been this theme all through history, not just in the book of Judges, but from Genesis with Adam and Eve until the book of Revelation with the 7 churches of Asia Minor. There was this cycle of faithfulness followed by episodes of sinfulness, followed by episodes of enslavement, in some cases to foreign powers, but in most cases to our own personal demons. And eventually crying out to God, who always responds to our prayers. And we got back on our feet again. And I have a friend in Mobile, Alabama, who was a drug addict. And he went through 3 or 4 different recoveries, begged God to rescue him, but each time fell back into his addiction again, and finally has made it, and he started a ministry called Redeeming Eden. And he's a biker, that's why he's a friend of mine. Not a zoom biker, but a bicycler. And when I go on my trip next summer, I'm going to sponsor his ministry, Redeeming Eden. He's starting a recovery center in Tennessee, and I want to walk with him in that endeavor. So, do we still seek a king, or are we following Jesus as our King? I was thinking about this as I was working on the sermon this past week, and it came to mind a hymn. I think I've only probably sung it in the past 45 years, maybe 2 or 3 times, and the title of that hymn is "The King of Love, My Shepherd Is." And we're going to close this morning in a moment or two with that hymn, the King of Love. Jesus is the King of love, who is also a good shepherd. And so what I'd like to do is briefly look at 3 passages in the Gospel according to John chapter 10, that talk about the kind of kingship that Jesus brings to our lives. Now, the interesting difference between most of these kings, in fact, all 43 of the kings of Israel, even the 7 kings who were relatively righteous, like Hezekiah and Josiah and David and Jehoshaphat and 3 others of the more righteous kings, even they lived to take from their people rather than give to their people. But with King Jesus, it's exactly the opposite. Jesus lived to give of himself to his sheep, to his flock, to his people. And so we find in John chapter 10, verse 11, these words. Jesus is speaking, and he says, "I am the good shepherd. And the good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep." So different from every other king who has reigned, whether in Israel or in England or any place in the world. Jesus said, "In my kingship, I will lay down my life for those who follow me." What a wonderful King we have. One of the fastest growing industries in the world today is the self-help industry. It's a $38 billion industry last year or the year before. In another few years, it's projected to be a $57 billion industry. And self-help, it's some of it has to do with the whole weight loss industry, and some of it has to do with these seminars that we go to get our biorhythms in tune, and some of them have to do with the power of positive thinking. That was actually the first, one of the first self-help books that my grandma, Bessie Campbell, read, by Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. And it was really, he was a Methodist pastor, but he wrote it together with a psychiatrist. And it's more psychology than it is Christian theology. And probably an even more famous one was the one by Dale Carnegie, How to Influence Friends. And what's the title? How to Make Friends That Influence People, or something like that. And then after that, I don't know if you remember or even saw any of the videos of Tony Robbins, one of these self-help gurus, and he was followed by Oprah Winfrey, who launched the work of Dr. Oz and the work of Dr. Phil, and these were all experts in self-help. And we, as boomers and as Generation Xers and new generations, man, we are buying all the books and going to all the seminars and paying a fortune for these people to help us, and most of us aren't getting any help. But man, are they getting help. Because every one of the names that I've just named died as well, some of them didn't die yet, but those who died as multi-millionaires. And Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil are each worth millions of dollars. And the only one of those who's not a millionaire is Oprah, who's a billionaire. So they participated in these self-help industries, and they helped themselves. Jesus didn't come to help himself. He came to help us. He came to lay down his life for us. And if we want this life, it's free. We just need to pick up the life of Jesus and take him unto ourselves. Over the years, I have had several pastors who I looked to for help, for wisdom, for ideas. And one of them was a pastor. He's American now, has a church out in California, but he was from New Zealand. His name is Ray Comfort. And when we planted a church years ago, we did a lot of street ministry, and Ray Comfort, that was his area of expertise. He would go into these huge parks like in New York City, and he would take a soapbox and stand on it and just start preaching and drawing a crowd. And I just, a couple of days ago, watched a video of one of these that he did back around 1990, and he went to a huge park in New York City, and he dressed up 6 men as pallbearers and took one live body and wrapped it in a shroud, and these pallbearers carried in what appeared to be a dead body, and they laid it on the square in the middle of this park. And eventually the police came by and said, "Hey, you can't have dead bodies here." And Comfort said, "No, he's not dead. He's alive." And they looked at him, and the guy threw the shroud off, and he said, "Yeah, I'm alive," and he sat up. and it was, but he did it to draw a crowd so that he could then preach. And one of the things that he did in his preaching, he reached for his wallet, and he said, "I'd like to give away some free money here. Here's $1. Who would like $1? Nobody came forward. Reached into his wallet again. $2. Who wants $2? Free. No strings attached. Nobody came forward. Took out $3. Nobody came forward. Took out a $20 bill. This was back in 1990. $23, you could take your love to a pretty nice restaurant to dinner for $23 back then. Nobody came forward. And the point that he was making was, I want to give you something for free. But because of your pride, because you don't want to look silly before all of these people, you won't accept what I offer you for free. And I found the same thing with Jesus. He has laid down his life for us. But because of pride, or because we're just not ready to stop having our kind of fun, so we need to be serious. Let me tell you, I'm having more fun today than I've ever had back in the days when I thought I was having fun. Just my personal testimony is I find nothing in life, in my life, that has been as outrageously joyful and meaningful and just plain old fun than loving and serving Jesus. And Jesus gives us all an open invitation. He says, ask, and you will receive. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be open to you. Jesus lays down his life for us. Let's not be too proud to reach out and pick up the life that Jesus has generously given to us. Now, some of you will say, well, I believe in Jesus. I'm not sure that in my lifetime I've met more than 2 or 3 people who don't believe in Jesus. I mean, there's fairly significant evidence of the historicity of the person of Jesus, and it's pretty easy to believe in Jesus. The devil believes in Jesus. The issue is not, do we believe in Jesus? But have we received Jesus into our lives? Is he the Lord of our lives? Do we proclaim him as our King? That's what it means to receive Jesus. A second verse in John chapter 10, verse 14. I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. Now, this word know is really, I think we're all adults here this morning. I think I can talk openly about this. The Greek word gnosko is the word that's used to know someone, talks about intimate knowledge. In fact, in Matthew chapter 1, verse 25, we are told that Joseph did not know Mary until after Jesus was born. You know what I mean? Joseph didn't know Mary. You got it? Yeah, it was a word that was used to describe sexual intimacy and all other kinds of intimacy. And so when Jesus said, I know you, listen, he knows us. You know, that stuff, just last night, we had two of my sons and some of my grandkids came to watch the Final Four, the 2 games last night. And both the teams that I wanted to win lost. So don't ask me to help you with your poll, okay? And I had never told Carol this, but we got to confessing our sins about the knuckleheaded things that we were doing. It's a pretty significant thing for a man's sons to finally confess these things that they've hidden for years and years. And so it was my turn to confess, and I said, you know what? I have a house that we own in Maryland, and I'm putting it up for sale, and I've been there the past 3 weeks. I've taken an extra day, a day of vacation off. I've been there painting. And one day last week, when I was very, very tired, I had worked a hard day all day, and then I went and I worked there until late at night painting. And I had some paint up on top of a ladder, and I forgot it was there. And the new carpet that I had just put in the master bedroom, all over the carpet. Spent another hour trying to clean it up, and I thought, well, maybe it'll dull overnight. And the next day, the next afternoon when I went down there, man, it was even more striking than it was the night before. I thought, what in the world am I going to do? I want to start showing the house next Wednesday, and I can't get a new carpet in there. So I went to Ollie's, and I bought a really beautiful 10 by 11 rug. And I took this rug, and I covered it up. Now, I'm going to tell everybody why I did that. I'm not going to try to hide it, and one day they'll say, oh, this rug would look better in another room, and suddenly discover the disaster. No, I'm not going to do that. But I didn't tell Carol on Thursday night when that happened. And I didn't mention it to her on Saturday. No, Friday comes after Thursday, right? Yeah. And finally, on Saturday night, in this spirit of confession that we were having, I let it out, and Carol said, well, you never told me that. Well, the point of all of this is that it was a good story, and I wanted to tell it. But the point is, Jesus already knows all of that stuff. He knew before I did that knuckleheaded thing that I was going to do it because he knows me. But he still loves me so much that he's willing to lay down his life for me and for you. He already knows all of that stuff about all of us. Stuff that we've been trying to forget for years. He knows it already. But he still loves us enough to lay down his life for us. One more. Verse 27, my first memory verse as a 4 or 5-year-old. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And then it follows with verse 28. And I will give them eternal life, and no one can snatch them out of my hand. A good shepherd protects his sheep. And so long as the good shepherd is around, caring for his sheep, and so long as his sheep are submitting to his care, no one will ever snatch us out of his hand, because he is a good shepherd. Now, a lot of times as Christians, we think that Christianity is all about getting a ticket to heaven. And, we pull out our wallet and we've got the ticket there, and one day we'll cash it in, and we hope that we don't lose that wallet someplace over the years, because then we lose the ticket to heaven. No. Jesus, long before he talked about eternity in this passage that we've just looked at, Jesus said, the thief came to steal, kill, and destroy, but I came to give you life that is abundant, that you might have life and have it more abundantly. That's now life. We don't have to wait until heaven to have this rich, abundant, wonderful life. serving Jesus, doing things that bring us such great joy. Now, we don't have to wait until heaven. We experience the abundant life, if we wish, every day of our lives. David said, "His goodness and mercy follows me all the days of my life." Now, I've had people that I've talked to many times over the years who said, yeah, his goodness and mercy follows me. Well, I don't happen to see his goodness and mercy following me right now. And we all have those moments, when we get kind of down in the pit and down in the dumps, and we just don't see any goodness. And I want to tell you, if you don't see God's goodness and mercy today, you're looking in the wrong place, because it's all around you. We just need to open our eyes to it. One final story. My son Chris, my youngest son, when he was 4 years old, like his dad, he wore very thick glasses, and he had surgery like I had when I was 4 or 5 years old, and still struggled with his vision. And as a little kid, he wore bifocals. I mean, from the age of 2, he had bifocals. And he just learned to walk around looking down. And this kid, as a 4 and 5-year-old, found more valuable merchandise than I've ever found. I mean, he found bracelets and rings and all kinds of stuff. And one day, we were up off of Cape Cod in Massachusetts, and we were at a grocery store, and he walked up to me, and he handed me a $50 bill that he had found laying on the ground. And we went and turned it in at the office, because we thought the only people who shop with cash are old people. And we were afraid that somebody lost it, and so we turned it in. And then when we went back, they said, "Well, come back in a couple of days and see if somebody claimed it." And when we went back, they said, "We don't know what you're talking about." So the person that we gave it to apparently put it in his pocket. That's on him. He'll need to stand before the Lord someday and confess his stuff, just like I confessed my paint. Chris saw things that the rest of us didn't see because he looked in the right places. If you're not seeing the goodness and the mercy of the living God all around you, you're looking in the wrong places. Because we have a king, the King of Kings, who laid down his life for us, who knows us, who knows everything about us, and still deeply loves us. Who has created eternity for us and will not let anyone snatch us out of his hand. Let's pray. Thanks, God. God, you're such a good God. We thank you for your Son, Jesus, the Redeemer, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Lord, I believe every one of us here today know who Jesus is. Some of us have gotten weary over the years, and we no longer have the kind of passion for Jesus that we once had. Lord, today, restore the passion that we once had. And for those of us who've never, we just came to church because Grandma came to church, and this is a good place to come, and we have friends here. But we've never really stepped forward and received the free gift of life. Lord, may we step forward this morning and receive all that you have for us. Thank you for this day. Thank you that in just 2 Sundays from today, we will celebrate your outrageous resurrection. And I pray as we proceed toward Resurrection Sunday, we would learn how to live resurrection lives. Lord, this is my prayer in Jesus' name, for his sake. Amen. Let's rise to our feet and let's sing hymn number 170, the first, second, and fifth verses. The King of Love, my shepherd is.
The King of Love, my shepherd is, whose goodness faileth never. I nothing lack if I am his, and he is mine forever. When streams of living water flow, my ransomed soul believeth, and where the verdant passions grow, and with food celestial feeding, and so through all the length of days, the goodness faileth never. May I sing thy praise within thy house forever.
I love this last verse. Through all the length of days, your goodness never fails. And so we may continue to sing your praise, both here, and let's sing in the shower, and let's sing when we're biking along, and let's sing when we're weeding the garden about his wonderful praise that follows us all of our days. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and all of God's people say, amen and amen.